Soleil began her professional career as a hardcore hip-hop artist by attracting attention in the summer of 1999 with her appearance on JT Money's single Who Dat, which reached number one on rap singles charts, remained on the charts for 8 weeks, and won Rap Single of the Year at the 1999 Billboard Music Awards. This was followed by the release of her debut album Skin Deep on DreamWorks Records in September of 1999, which achieved gold status and garnered her a nomination for Rap Artist of the Year at the Billboard Music Awards. She also went to win several ASCAP Music Awards that same year. Feeling disenchanted with the music industry, some of the lyrics she was writing, and the images she was portraying, after one full-length album, Soleil requested to be released from her record label, and her sophomore album, Fly Away, was never released. She no longer wanted to be a part of the promotion and glorification of the destructive messaging and programming that was being pushed and promoted, especially in urban music. During her almost 20-year hiatus, Soleil has embarked upon a spiritual journey and began evolving into the woman she is today. Check out my interview with Soleil.
You have been around for a while when it comes to music. When people hear your name, they always think back to, 1999, early 2000s, and be like, oh, yes. And then if you look, yeah. And so seeing that, version of Soleil when it comes to mainstream, and then looking at the work and the energy that you represent now, and it's pure goddess energy. Tell us a little bit of how that happened. What led you to that? Let's start there.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think, growing up, I always had a connection to spirit. Even as a young child, I always had this deep connection and knowing of the spirit realm. And though I grew up in a Christian household and my mother sang gospel and we went to church, she also taught me about and delved into astrology and palmistry and these esoteric and quote unquote occult. People like to put a negative connotation on occult, but it in and of itself is not a negative term. But these practices that, went back to ancient times, and numerology and things like that always just had drawn me and called to me. I was interested in and started studying. I didn't even know the term Kemetic at the time, so I was calling it Egyptian, but Egyptian spirituality and yoga and Hinduism and Buddhism and Islam and all these things that just fascinated me when I was a child.
Okay.
And but I didn't, none of them still took full hold as the fullness of a practice until I got older, outside of what most of us did in the Black community, which is went to church.
Right.
And so, but I went into music. Like I said, my mother was a singer. She used to sing before I was born in jazz clubs and the R&B clubs in Kansas City, and she used to sing with the members of Bloodstone. She was a part of them. They came out of Kansas City, and then she didn't want to be on the road as an entertainer. She wanted to be home raising a family, so she made that sacrifice and stayed home to be a mother and went into medicine. And so music and entertainment, a lot of my family members sing or play instruments, and that gift is deeply embedded in my family, and so I always knew I wanted to do music and entertain, and I went down that road, and then once I got into the industry, I didn't love the industry. I love music. I love creating. I love performing, but I didn't love the industry itself and what all came with it. And I also started, after that first album came out, and I recorded a second album that I in turn didn't release. But I decided that I was starting to feel uncomfortable with the images I was portraying and the lyrics that I was writing, even though, you know, if you go back and listen to my first album, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't full of just negative songs. There were a lot of positive messages and empowering messages there, though they were littered with vulgarity. But part of just how I grew up, the neighborhoods I grew up in, how we grew up talking, things that grew up around, that you grew up around in the hood that become part of your story and experience. But I started becoming uncomfortable with that. Okay. And, so after that first album, I just, you know, I literally one day I heard a voice say, "Is this what you want your daughters to emulate?" And I was like, no. And that became the time that I stepped away from the music industry for a very long time and went down this spiritual path of seeking, which started back in the church and then evolved to where I am now.
That's really powerful. That's really powerful. And I was just speaking with one of my friends the other day about the products that are being sold when you listen to mainstream music today. And when people, you know, it's so derogatory. I was listening to a P.D. Pablo song from the early 2000s, and something that we used to love back then, and being who I am now, listening to it, I'm like, this is some sad music, and this is what's being blasted. This is what's being approved. Yeah. Like, this is what's being said. And so, so that was interesting, because I know people would like to see, like, okay, so what changed? And so let's really talk about now with your, you got new music out. It feels like, I would say, way more spiritually grounded. Knowing your spiritual power, the energy that you bring, how is doing music differently now? Like, how is it going to be differently, or how do you see it differently in that essence? Because you're still doing music. The music never left.
Right. Yeah. You know, at one point I thought I would never record again. I just had no desire for the industry, and I thought that there wasn't a place for me in music to express where I was in life. And once that was, you know, years ago when I, you know, a little bit after I left. And but then I was tasked, and I would say by spirit, by my ancestors, to go back in and do another project that reflects the evolution of a woman. So that, knowing that I couldn't leave that one project that I made in 1999 at 20-something years old, let that be the only musical representation that I left in the earth realm for my children, for their children when they have children, and their children's children. And that, you know, we do have to be responsible for what we put out there. And I found myself being not proud of, you know, a lot of the things that I shared and put out in the ether musically. And I know and understand and have studied the power of sound and the power of music and vibration, and understand that it can either be medicine or poison. You know, it can be healing or toxic. And I knew that I had to go back and write some of that, R-I-G-H-T, as well as W-R-I-T-E, because I write all of my own music. But I had to do that, because we don't get to bypass, no matter what you believe, no matter what your spiritual or lack of spiritual practices or religious beliefs are. There are natural laws that we don't get to bypass. And when we put something out, whether it's something we physically do or that we say out of our mouths, there's a consequence to that. Yeah. And we don't get to choose what those consequences are. We can choose our actions, in a free society, and even in not, you can choose them, but then we still have, there's consequences to be paid, and naturally and spiritually. And so I knew that I could leave that as such and just take all that I have learned and received from years and years of study and classes and sitting at the feet of elders and gurus and teachers in all parts of the world, and just being blessed with the ability to be able to do that, to receive all that wisdom, all that knowledge, all of that information being poured into me, and watching and have my own life and those close to me lives benefit and flourish because of that, and then just keep it to myself and not share that with everyone else who may have who may have been touched in a different way by my music back then, and maybe even in a negative way, and then not show them this evolution and change and offer that to them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I definitely.
So I had a duty to do that, and then I wanted to, the desire to create came back, the desire to perform came back in this whole holistic way, because it felt like now I don't have anything to prove. I don't have somebody telling me who I have to be or what I have to sound like, because I'm beyond that at this point. I'm not moved by money or fame and all of those things, and never was moved by the trappings of the industry. I was never a partier or a drinker or a smoker or a drug user or slept around. People see certain, an image of an artist sometimes and feel like they know them, but really most often, a lot of times, you don't. Now, some people do actually live the lives that they portray in their music, and more often you're seeing that because you see people talking about certain things, and that's being manifested in their lives as they go to jail or strung out on drugs or stumbling down drunk somewhere or whatever the things they're doing that they're talking about. But a lot of times it's not a reflection. And for me, I didn't talk about any of those things, but the image that I was putting out was still not a fully accurate picture of who I truly was. I was the artist that went and did a show and then went back to my room to read a book and or watch a documentary because that or study something in some type of way or take a nap, and only went out to the clubs if I had to, if I was being paid to make an appearance. And it wasn't a life that I loved, but I felt like that I had to be a part of to fulfill this dream of being an entertainer. And now it's just totally different, and I do know that I don't have to conform, and I can fully be the artist that I want to be, because I don't care at this point whether one person is moved and blessed by it or a million people, because I'm not doing it for money or fame, or if I wanted to do something for money, I could go do the type of music that is really popular right now. I mean, I still sound the same. I still look pretty much the same, though I've of course grown and changed. But so I could go do that, and but that's not, it's why. Like, if I haven't changed from 20 something to 40 something, I've wasted 20 some odd years. If I came back out as the same person I was in 1999, then what a waste of a life.
Right. And you know what? One thing as you're speaking, what rings a bell is the whole saying of loving what you do. And I feel now with your music, you're free to be true to yourself. So the person that is on singing on the stage, rapping your lyrics, is the same person who's living by those things and doing those things. And so it changes the whole that, it puts that passion back, that love back. And that's really awesome. And I'm happy just to hear you say that, because there are a lot of other women who are on that journey of defining their true self and finding her. What were some of the things that led you to find her? If you can share that.
I literally, when it was an uncomfortableness in my spirit after the first album and finishing up the second and not releasing it, and literally looking at my children and just that feeling in my spirit of knowing promoting for them,
Mm-hmm.
and then for other people's children. It was this inner yearning for something more and deeper than just this surface facade. And I knew I was really never one that was moved by money and things. I had money and nice things, and I shouldn't even say nice things because expensive things. I'll say that because. To me, nice things now are the same things that I considered nice things back then. Nice things, like my most favorite things, are things that I've bought on my travels that are probably some of the least expensive things that I have, but they're, to me, the nicest things that I have, the most valuable things that I have. But it was all those different things, just an inner yearning for something higher than what I was experiencing. And so it took me on that journey from probably 2000, 2001 up until now, and within the last probably 6, 7 or more years, feeling like that I had really started to come into the fullness of that, and still continue to grow and to seek and to learn, because I'm always, my husband was laughing at me the other day because I was writing out. Someone had asked me for, I was submitting my bio for something that somebody wanted, and they had asked me about some classes I had taken and different things, and I said, let me actually sit here and write out almost like a resume, but just a list of the courses and classes that I had taken over the years since. I didn't go back as far as when I left high school and went to college for a short time, but I went back to 2008 when I started doing just classes that I wanted to take on my own outside of the traditional educational system. And there was probably, the list is probably at least 40 or more classes since 2008.
Wow.
Workshops, training, certifications, internships, apprenticeships. Like, it was really long. And I was like, okay, so I think I'm officially addicted to learning, to knowledge. And he was like, but it's a beautiful thing. He was like, it's a beautiful thing to constantly be seeking. And not because I feel inadequate, but because it's just this thirst for knowledge and for more, and then to be able to take that and offer it to others in a very palatable way, or those that may not have the ability or time to be able to go travel to another country and sit at someone else's feet and study for a month. And you know what I mean? And so then I bring that back to the neighborhood, to our community, and try to offer that in ways that are digestible and palatable for other people. So, but yeah, I just always had this yearning and desire to grow. And then when you start learning, the more you learn, the more you know how much you don't know. So I think the more people think, oh, I'm going to learn and I'm going to study and I'm going to get this degree or I'm going to do that certification and then I will have arrived. And it's like, no, wisdom tells you the more you start learning and studying and delving deep into the sciences and different arts and just different practices, that you really should start developing a true humility. Like, I really don't know anything. There's so much knowledge and wisdom and truth out in the world, and yeah, you really start knowing how much you don't know the more you learn.
Yeah, and that's a great balance. I always try to tell people, you want to be in that state where you know that you are something and someone important, but then on the flip side, you really ain't, or really don't know too much of nothing, because there's so much more to learn. And so I try to tell people to stay in that balance of being in that type of mind state, because then you won't have to deal with, because if you get too much ego and don't balance out that spiritual side or continue to learn, that's when you start having the blockages and situations pop up and hardships. So this is really cool. So you did mention your husband. I know the world was shocked. I know I was shocked when I first saw that you and Professor Griff were an item. And then, you guys, you shared the marriage pictures on social media. They were gorgeous and they were beautiful. And it just looks that that your union with him has added so much to this journey. And now, you know, your wife back to doing music, also doing your spiritual teachings, mother, you have a family, balancing all of that as a woman. Because there's so many other women that are trying to establish that. You know, talk a little bit about how do you find balance and how does that work for you in a way to where other women can learn from or get an idea of how that is done.
Yeah, let me know when you figure that out. Yeah, it's a lot. You know, it's difficult to sometimes balance and prioritize everything that needs to be done, but it's exactly by doing that, by prioritizing and making what is most important in your life a priority. And I tell, you know, women all the time when I teach workshops or classes and this comes up, is that I don't get it all done always the way that I want to, but I do try my best to prioritize the things that are most important and let the rest go. And that includes self-care, because that tends to be the thing that if something's going to lack, that we push to the side. Mm-hmm. And it's the most important thing that we can do, not just for ourselves, but for our families, for our spouses, for our children, if we have them, for everyone that is connected to us. Because we've all heard the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, so we can't offer what we don't have. And if we're constantly pouring and depleting ourselves and never refilling our own cup, we're not doing our spouse, ourselves, our children, our other loved ones, friends, anyone else, we're doing them a disservice by coming to them depleted or half empty. So we're not offering the fullness. We think by never saying no. You know, one of my teachers, you know, drilled in me the concept of the sacred yes and the sacred no. You know, it's don't give yeses and nos that you really don't want to do, that you really don't have the resources or time or energy to do. Honor yourself and give a sacred no. Like, no, I can't do it. It's a complete sentence that doesn't require any explanation. So, loving and honoring yourself enough to care for yourself that you can be fully present and whole to care for others. And so I make it a point to prioritize that time as well, too. I've started even getting a calendar and literally writing even self-care time on my calendar as an appointment that cannot be changed unless something absolutely major came up that took precedence and took priority over that for the moment. And then back to that. But my husband and I make sure that we spend a lot of time together. We're both really busy, so we make sure that we are together a lot. So if we're both just studying or prepping for a class or anything else, sometimes we'll just go together and sit at the little coffee shop that a sister we know owns, and sit next to each other and work together. Or let's stay home and sit in a bed and work together. Just even if we're kind of, our arms are touching and we're both writing or have our headphones on or working, we try to make sure that we spend a lot of time together. And then doing things with my children, I plan out trips for them at least once or twice a year, somewhere out of the country, usually that we all go together, even my adult daughters, because it's just prioritizing that time and making it important, because we make time for what we want to do and what's important. Mm-hmm. We'll find time to do something we really want to do. We'll find time and resources.
Right,
It's important. But I make sure to have those self-care practices, my yoga practice, my martial arts practice, my sacred dance practices. I make sure to do my mantra, pranayama, the practices that I know elevate me so that I can go out into the world my best when I'm offering to others.
That is good. That is super good. So let's talk about your music and the events, whatever products things that you got going on so people can support you and continue to learn and follow you, what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm doing a lot right now. The focus has been primarily my music because it's once we started this project, it really it kind of took over, overshadowed everything else because it required so much time and energy. But I do also offer my wellness offering through my company, Devi Tribe Wellness, the DEVI, V as in Victor. Devi means goddess in Sanskrit, so my goddess tribe offering. And so while I was away from music all these years, I delved into so many practices, and as I mentioned before, in classes, and started getting certifications in a lot of different wellness practices. And so Devi Tribe Wellness is where I offer all of that sacred medicine. So I'm a 300-hour certified Jiva Mukti yoga teacher, and I was trained in Mumbai, India, and I'm a Tantra yoga practitioner. I studied under Sri Padameshwaran, who is the father of Padatan Inner Shakti Yoga in sound healing, and they call him the master of the living goddess tradition. So, and I have a black belt in Kung Fu. I teach prenatal yoga. I don't teach it very often. Sometimes if I get a individual client, I'm a birth doula, so I serve women, on the birthing, on their birth journey, and I also teach pelvic floor yoga, pelvic floor health, and have a certificate in plant-based nutrition. So I'll offer classes sometimes online and how to transition to a plant-based lifestyle. I'm a Reiki master. And I don't like that term. I just hate that something about the term master that just is a turn off to me. And I don't usually use it. I just say, I'm a Reiki practitioner. But because I feel like, do we ever truly really master anything? And the term just, I don't know, it just never resonated with me. But, I studied with Queen Afua to her Sacred Woman program and offer womb wellness practices. I'm a womb sauna practitioner, and I facilitate red tent circles, new moon gatherings. I do chakra balancing, Dallas Jade Egg tradition, sacred dance, belly dance, all of these very divine, feminine practices that, designed to help cultivate and reintroduce us back to the divine feminine in ourselves, because especially here in the West, we tend to be a very yang, action oriented society, and so we place a lot of value on doing, and achieving, and that very masculine, and when I'm using masculine and feminine, I'm not talking about gender right now. I'm talking about energy, and so it's a very masculine energy. And when we get caught up in that, a lot of times our balance becomes off, because now our softer, more fluid feminine side gets quailed, and so we don't, and we tend to feel off balance, and where we tend to hold those imbalances as women, and traumas and other things that may have happened tend to be in the womb. And so a lot of these practices are designed to help to be medicine to the womb. And Queen Afua talks about how when we're disconnected from our wombs and from that sacred, divine, feminine, creative energy for whatever reasons, that we're not fully able to have true, intimate interchange with other people. And that very art of sharing love from our center is blocked and compromised, and that connection from womb to heart gets blocked and compromised. And so until we can truly share, and be whole from our own center, then we can't fully share, with anyone else our whole selves.
I'm so glad, because that you said what you said, because I get so many women. We have a Brains and Beauty Academy. It's a group outside the Natural Woman magazine where we help women And we all, well, just women work together. It's a gathering group where we study our womanly arts and just develop ourselves. And you get a lot of women that want to do so many things, just dive into this learning, but then they have a part of them or somebody around them or society telling them, pick that one thing and just stick to it. And I tell them all the time, I said, never limit how much you can learn, because you never know at what stage of your life you may change and do something new. You don't have to do the same thing forever, and you want to continuously grow. And, you know, because with that, because we are in this physical realm, we do have to live, you know, currency is there. By being in that mode, you don't stifle any limits to your income. You can bring so many things in if you just tap into developing your gifts, following those inklings that make you want to study more and just become I don't know. I think it's really, really cool that you mentioned that, because a lot of women come and say, well, I do this already and I want to do this, but then this person said I shouldn't do this because I'm going to confuse people with what I'm doing because this is something different. And I'm like, stop living for everybody else.
Exactly. And I think it is important to each thing that you delve into, that you fully delve into it and dedicate some specific time and study to that, so you fully do understand the practices and what it is that you're doing. Because I think that they're taking that thought and mixing it with I can't do and learn something else. And I think it's just important to, if you are going to learn and study a variety of things, that each of those things you do dedicate enough time and study in doing, so that you don't just get a surface knowledge of. And I think that's a lot of what the problem of what we're seeing out here now is the social media and this microwave era that we live in. Is everything is a quick, give me this quick. And you can jump on Instagram and you can read a little bit about this, and then 30 seconds later, I read a little bit about this, and now I'm over here reading a little bit about this. So you know a tiny bit about a whole lot of things, and it's all surface. And then all of a sudden, you're the guru of whatever and marketing yourself as the master of something, and you really haven't taken any real time to, one, work on yourself. Because in order to really, truly work magic, and magic is just a shift in perception, but to really work that magic and enchantment for others, you must first put some enchantment and work on yourself. So those things really, in order to fully be effective, you have to fully digest them and know and understand deeply the practices that you're delving into before you go offering them. And then before moving on to another, not that you can't study more than one thing at one time, but really dedicate the time to learning them thoroughly before adding on more and more and more. So I have delved into a lot of practices and a lot of different teachings, but we're talking about now years and years worth of study and immersions and apprenticeships and classes and sitting at the feet of elders and all of these different things that I've dedicated a lot of time to, and that I still feel like I've just scratched the surface. So I do think that, we don't have to limit ourselves, and it's okay to go over here and say, oh, okay, I'm interested in that, let me learn a little bit. Okay, I like it, but it may not be for me, so I'm going to go here now and learn a little bit about that, and then whatever is for you and resonates with you, go deep in that.
And you brought up something so important, and that is, you get a lot of people now with the information age. You can become a life coach for $25 by just reading a book, and you start a business.
In a whole week.
Yes, and you start a business helping other people with their life. And I'm like, that's serious. Like, I used to do readings and have a holistic business, but when I kind of focused on my magazine and stuff, I stopped doing that because you got to be right when you are working with people and their healing. Delve into information. Like, if you're going to study something and be or I don't like to use the word expert, but to know something and be knowledgeable to teach others, you got to make sure you know it and apply it yourself. And it's so important that you brought that up, because we're seeing it now in our communities. the Instagram or Facebook or Google gurus that are guiding lives.
And without me talking about anyone specific, because I really, a lot of the, my husband calls them YouTube scholars,
right?
But a lot of these people, I don't listen to, or I lend any time or energy to, but I know they're out there, so I can't, I can't point a finger at anyone specifically and wouldn't. But I think you do see. I've stumbled across a few things that it's like, wow. It's on the one hand, it's beautiful that people are seeking knowledge, right, and that they are seeking to attain something higher. And then some of it you see, and your spirit tells you that it's pure ego and wanting to just have a status of and the appearance of having some deep knowledge. And the problem comes in because a lot of these people, they fail to acknowledge those who came before them. They fail to acknowledge where they gathered this information, and it's presented as if it's something new and something that they some concept they came up with and created to try to attract people to them, instead of really showing honor and reverence for those who came before, all of us who laid the foundation, who did the work, who laid out these things, that we're able to go to pull these books and information and study. And my husband back in the in the 70s was sitting in study groups with some who are now ancestors and some of the greats who laid out some information in the conscious community that others will take and just show no reverence to, because it's all about ego. Right. And so I just think it's important to really get to really delve deeply into whatever it is that you're teaching and that you're transmitting to other people, and then to give honor and reverence to those who have come before you and already done that work. Who, a lot of people are regurgitating work that is not new. Most of us are not teaching anything new. I'm not teaching anything new. Right. The way in which I present my information is going to be tailored in my own personal way, but everything I'm teaching is because someone else taught me. Everything I teach and share is because someone else took the time to pour into me. To write a book that I was able to sit and read in depth and study, and then go take a class and go sit in my own prayer and meditation and let it be integrated into my body and into my spirit. But that's not my teaching. That's not my wisdom, And so I think that's more of the problem. And I think now, because we do, and social media has really lessened the attention span of people, and people have, it's probably very few people that actually do go sit and really study and learn and spend a lot of time dedicated to that, because again, you can flip and watch a 10-minute YouTube video here and this one here, and click on and read a meme and read somebody's Instagram or Facebook post and look at this real quick, and then at the end of the day, you feel like you're a scholar. Right. Like, oh, I learned so much. Just scratch the surface. Scratch the surface. We had this conversation with a yoga teacher recently, because even trainings like that, there's plenty of 200-hour. You talked about how you could become a life coach in a day. Honestly, in my opinion, a 200-hour yoga teacher training alone is not enough to really truly transmit the teachings of yoga in an effective way, which is why I think it's beautiful, the programs that do go really deep and require that you've been a student and practitioner for a certain number of years before you can even enter their program. And then you have to go into a full immersion into that program, and then you have to read and study certain texts and write out papers and do all of these things. And then still, even then, it's just a lifelong journey. I was practicing for probably 9 years maybe before I ever did a yoga teacher training, and I did a 300-hour training, and I still felt like, wow, it is so much that I don't once I did that training. And I think because these things get commodified and we want to hurry up and present ourselves as something more than we are, that a lot of people just don't take real time to invest in getting the real knowledge and tools and experience. And we don't value so much experience. And these are practices that really require a lot of practice and experience and not just book knowledge and time at a training, but really time to integrate these practices into your spirit. And so but we live in a society now that everything's quick. I want it quick. Let me hurry up and get this. And now I'm this. Oop, I did this, and now I'm this.
Yeah.
And it can be very dangerous.
Yes, it can. It definitely can. Well, thank you. This has been really great. Can you tell us where we can continue to follow? I know you got the Instagram, the Facebook, but let us know your website, where we can get more information from you at, so we can have.
Yeah, so my website is www.iamsoleil.com, IAMSOLE.com, and then my wellness site is DebbieTribeWellness.com, DEVI Tribe, wellness.com, and then of course on IG I'm Mrs. Soleil, MRSSOLE, and so I share all of information about music, upcoming wellness offerings, and all of that in all of those places.
Yes, and I love your Instagram page, by the way.
Thank you.
You always have some great things. And I think I reconnected with, I'm going to do the quotation Soleil, via Facebook, just off of one of your posts. It was all, I think, because you share a lot about the yoga and the teachings. And I'm all into the goddess energy. And I was like, is that Soleil? I was shocked, like, what? And so I'm just loving all that you're bringing now and how you're able just to, I guess, give us a higher form of who you are. And, you being...
it must be remembering who I always was.
Yes, exactly.
And exactly. It's a remembering and then walking out the manifestation of that. Actually manifesting who I always was once I remembered. And I'm going to tell you this real quick before we go. My husband tasked me with writing a purpose statement for my life and what it is that I do. And I sat down for a minute and thought about it, and I wrote out that I'm a divine being seeking to raise the consciousness of other divine beings, unaware of their divinity, by introducing them to healing modalities on a bio-psycho-social level so that they may remember who they are and begin to heal themselves. So all I'm doing is offering different modes of healing through music, through the sacred sound, through these different wellness practices, through yoga, through mantra, through pranayama, name them by the single, offering these things in hopes that they have someone to remember who they really are, remember that they are divine, and then begin to heal themselves, because I'm not the healer. Nobody you go to is actually the healer. We're just a conduit, a straw for this to come through to share with you, and then you ultimately have to do the healing work on your own. So that really, I think, sums up what it is that I do and how I came about to my own healing process, was just simply through remembering.
Wow. That is so amazing. You are a divine reflection for us all.
Of you.
Yes, a divine reflection. Yes. Yes.
And you are me.
Yes.
And that's the highest of the teaching. That's what I want. That is what I aspire to live, to teach both, that there are no others. I'm you, you are me. I'm a reflection of you, and you of me. And so I can't offer you poison. So if we don't have this disease of disconnection, if we can't harm one another if we know that we are each other. So it's part of Mahanta Yoga, when you offered me poison, you didn't realize that my life was one with your own. If I'm offering poison, you're me, so I'm poisoning myself ultimately. So it's really understanding that oneness of being, and that's the totality of all of it. The interconnectedness of all of it, that I'm everything and nothing. I'm you, you're me, we're the entire cosmos. We are God. God is absolute. We're all connected. And so that's the highest of what I hope that the teachings that I offer cause someone to remember.
I hope y'all are remembering, and I'm recording it. That's why I'm saying this through myself, because that is so powerful. Thank you so much. This was such a delight. And that was one of the things I wanted to aim with this interview, to really just share that journey, because people, when they hear your name, they remember one thing and then they see something else. And then because we're all on this journey. Somewhere down the line, somebody's going to wake up and they want to learn more. And, you know, it's an amazing thing. You know what I mean? But thank you so much. This has been a great interview. Yes. Exactly. And I just think it's beautiful, and especially with your platform, being able to share that allows, you know, it just sets the tone. And it just, you know, it's a great time to see things change and evolve, because that's what everything's happening now. So this is great. You are the true you are a true definition of what a natural woman is. And I always tell people a natural woman has nothing to do with even though how she dresses does affect her perception, but it's all about how she takes what's happening on the inside and sharing that on the outside. And that's the highest one, is being your truest self. And so you represent that to its fullest. So thank you.
Thank you. The highest beauty is the beauty of pure perception.
Yes. That is super awesome.
So thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me, and I hope to stay connected.